10th, 1981, when the Edmonton Oilers selected Victoria Cougars goaltender Grant Fuhr with the 8th overall pick in the 1981 NHL entry draft. Instead of being sent to fine-tune his game in the minors for another year or two, Fuhr would quickly secure his place on the Oilers roster for the upcoming 81-82 season. Not only would he earn a spot on the roster, but he would show his hometown team that he had no intentions of leaving anytime soon, as he was quickly named the team's starting netminder just a few weeks into the season. Having posted 20 wins in his first 26 games midway through his rookie year, thanks to a 23-game undefeated streak, which is still the NHL record for a rookie netminder, Grant Fuhr would receive an invitation to the 1982 NHL All-Star game in Washington on February 9th. Fuhr's place as the starter on the Campbell Conference roster wouldn't just be an honour for him, it would also mark a historic milestone in the league's history books, as Fuhr became the first black player to ever play in the NHL All-Star game, an event he would attend on 6 different occasions throughout his career. Having earned his own piece of league history in just his first season, Fuhr would continue to put on a show and finish his rookie year with a 28-5-14 record, a 3.31 goals against average, and a .899 save percentage in 48 games. Numbers that were considered impressive, or even great, due to him playing in the high-scoring, minimal defense era of the 1980s. This performance would help Fuhr finish 3rd place in Calder voting for Rookie of the Year, and help the Oilers make an appearance in the 1982 playoffs, but he would allow over 5 goals a game with an .852 save percentage as the Oilers were taken out in the first round by the Los Angeles Kings. Following his standout debut year, Fuhr would go through somewhat of a sophomore slump during the following 82-83 season, winning just 13 of his 32 games and even being sent down to the minors for a 10-game stint. However, the 83-84 season would see a return to form for the Canadian netminder and the beginning of both his and the Oilers' dominance over the entire NHL. Fuhr would post a 30-10-4 record, a 3.91 goals against average, and a .883 save percentage in 45 games, earn his 2nd trip to the NHL All-Star game in 3 seasons, and assist the Oilers in returning to the playoffs once more. His regular season numbers may have been impressive enough, but Fuhr would quickly...
Look at these humans, just walking past the chance to save nearly $750. Hey,
1984 Stanley Cup. This championship wouldn't just be Edmonton's first in franchise history, but it would also mark the first time in the NHL's 67-year lifespan that a black player would have their name engraved on the trophy. I think it's fair to say that Fuhr and the Oilers must have enjoyed winning the cup that year, because they would certainly be getting their hands on it a lot more for the rest of the decade. The remainder of the 80s saw Fuhr continue to post solid numbers for the Oilers despite minimal defensive help, receive a number of awards, and firmly place himself in the conversation as one of the best goaltenders in the entire league. There are many similarities in his stats and the accolades he received over the next 5 seasons, so allow me to briefly summarise them for you. The 84-85 season, 26 wins in 46 games, an All-Star appearance and a Stanley Cup championship. The 85-86 season, 29 wins in 44 games and an All-Star appearance, in which he became the first black player to be named All-Star MVP. The 86-87 season, 22 wins in 44 games and a Stanley Cup championship. Penultimately, the 87-88 season, the best of his entire NHL career, with 40 wins in 75 games, an All-Star appearance, a Stanley Cup championship, and his first and only Vezina trophy, making him the first black player to win that award too. And last but certainly not least, the 88-89 season, the first year without Wayne Gretzky on the team of course, a rather disappointing 23 wins in 58 games, but his 6th and final appearance at the All-Star game. So that's 4 All-Star appearances, an All-Star MVP, 3 Stanley Cups, and a Vezina trophy, all in the span of 5 years. Yep, the 80s Oilers sure were a dynasty, alright. As Edmonton entered the dawn of a new decade, and with Fuhr recently coming off his first losing record in 5 years, the 28-year-old netminder knew that he could bounce back and help the Oilers remain as the league's team to beat. Despite spending a pair of games in the AHL, being sidelined for much of the season due to several different injuries, and playing in just 21 games that year, where he posted a 9-7-3 record, a 3.89 goals against average, and a .868 save percentage, the Oilers, led by new starting netminder Bill Ranford, were able to go all the way once again, as the Gretzky-less side clinched the 1990 Stanley Cup and the franchise's 5th championship in just 7 years. Unfortunately, Fuhr's final championship would immediately be followed by controversy, as on September 28, 1990, Fuhr was suspended by the NHL for an entire season. This huge suspension was handed out after Fuhr had admitted to indulging in illegal substances between 1983 and 1989, pretty much the entirety of the Oilers' dominance over the league. During this announcement, NHL President John Ziegler stated that Fuhr's conduct was dishonourable and against the welfare of the league, and that he must suffer the consequences for his defiance of league policy. Though Fuhr never specified which drugs he had been using, his ex-wife Corinne claimed that she would often find cocaine hidden in Grant's clothing, and that she would receive phone calls from drug dealers whom Grant had not yet paid. After missing the first 59 games of the season to attend a rehab program, Fuhr was finally reinstated by the league and allowed to join the Oilers on February 18, 1991, where he would post a 6-4-3 record, a 3.01 goals against average, and a .897 save percentage in 13 games, as well as an 8-7 record in 18 playoff games, before being knocked out in the conference finals by the Minnesota North Stars. This turbulent year would turn out to be Fuhr's last in Edmonton, as on September 19, 1991, the Oilers announced that they had traded Fuhr to the Toronto Maple Leafs, along with Glenn Anderson and Craig Berube, in exchange for Vincent Damhouse, Peter Ing, Scott Thornton and Luke Richardson. After 10 seasons wearing the blue and orange of Edmonton, and after backstopping one of the greatest dynasties in league history, Fuhr would be leaving his hometown team behind with a 226, 117 and 54 record in 423 regular season games, as well as a 74 and 32 record in 112 playoff games. Fuhr's trade to Toronto would give him a fresh start and the chance to re-establish himself as a top netminder in the league, yet it would turn out to be the first of his many stops during the 90s, as he would play just 94 games for the Leafs over the next 2 seasons and post a 38, 42 and 9 record, before being traded again on February 2nd, 1993, along with a 5th round draft pick, to the Buffalo Sabres, in exchange for Dave Ondrejchuk, Darren Pupper and a 1st round pick. Fuhr would then spend the next 64 games of his NHL career with the Sabres and post a 25, 29 and 5 record, as well as win the 1994 William M. Jennings Trophy alongside fellow netminder Dominik Hasek, before being traded for the 3rd time in 4 years to the Los Angeles Kings on February 14, 1995. Fuhr's time in LA would be brief though, as he would only stick around until the end of the 94-95 season and win just a single game in 14 appearances, so not exactly his finest work, was it? Following his disappointing stint in California, it seemed like Fuhr's NHL career was all but done for. He had won just 2 of his 17 games over the last season, and was clearly a shell of his former Oilers self. However, Fuhr would manage to secure a gig for the upcoming 95-96 season, as he signed as a free agent with the St. Louis Blues on July 14, 1995, meaning he joined his 5th NHL team in the last 6 seasons. Though all signs pointed to Fuhr being down and out, oh boy did he prove everyone wrong. Fuhr's move to St. Louis would be exactly what he needed for his career, as he found a way to turn back the clock and become a top goalie in the league once again. The Canadian netminder would spend the next 4 seasons with the Blues, post 30 wins or more and a save percentage of 900 or higher in his first 2 years, as well as set 2 new NHL records. The most games played by a goaltender in one NHL season with 79, and the most consecutive games played by a goaltender in one season with 76, both during the 95-96 season. Over a decade after entering the league, Fuhr played almost every single game in an entire NHL season, and was putting up the best stats of his career in the process too. Talk about rising from the ashes! This resurgence would result in Fuhr posting a 108, 87 and 41 record in 249 regular season games between 1995 and 1999. With the Blues signing of free agent netminder Roman Churik, and with their intention for him to be their new starting netminder, there was no longer a place for Fuhr on the roster. This prompted St. Louis to trade Fuhr for the fourth and final time of his career on September 4th, 1999, to the Calgary Flames, in exchange for a 2000 third-round pick. Fuhr would then spend the 99/2000 season with the Flames, but wouldn't have the same impact as he did with the Blues.